Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As I told you in the earlier class, in the last class, that in various days, people used ships and trains or as a means of transportation in order to travel from one country to another. So, if I want you to look at this screen, and you will see the ships and trains that the people used in those days, the kind of ships and trains people used in those days. So if you look at the train, it's run on steam engine, and in those days trains ran at a speed of 20 to 25 kilometers, and it would take 10 to 15 days to travel from one country to another. Today we would like to start with chapter 2 and chapter 3 of your book Round the World in 80 Days. So the title of the second chapter is Mr. Fogg and his bet. So the title suggests that this book is going to be about Mr. Fogg, who is going to have a bet. What is a bet? Sure, a bet is a type of agreement or a deal. For example, you're watching a football match between Barcelona and Real Madrid, and you support Barcelona, and your friend supports Real Madrid, and your friend is saying, hey, if Barcelona wins, I'll give you 1,000, but if Real Madrid wins, then you're going to give me the same amount of money. So that kind of deal is called a bet. And in Islam, this kind of bet is, all kinds of bet is absolutely haram. So this chapter is going to be about Mr. Fogg, who is going to have a bet. I would like to start this chapter by reading the first two paragraphs, which is very crucial to understanding the the chapter. Kindly look at the screen. It begins with Phileas Fogg lived his same quiet life every day, spending exactly 12 hours at home and 12 hours at his club. What it means is Phileas Fogg lived a very normal life, casual life. There is nothing special in his life. Every day is just like a Sunday or Monday or Tuesday, nothing special. But then the crucial paragraph is the second one. On October 2nd, two unusual things happened. On October 2nd. The interesting thing about this paragraph, or this sentence, is it begins with a date, a certain date. And what's so special about beginning a story with a date? Any guesses? Well, if you start a story with a certain date, or a day, or a year, or a place, it means that you are trying to make your story believable. If I say once upon a time there lived a little boy or a little girl, you say, hey, that's a fairy tale. But if I say in 2004, on Sunday, there was a boy named Ronnie or whatever, and he was living in a small town of Dhaka, you would say, maybe that's a true story. Why? Because I use dates and years and days. So if you use days or years or days, it makes your fiction, your story, more believable. Now it says, on October 2nd, two unusual things happened. First unusual thing was Mr. Fogg had a new servant named Mr. Passepartout. Mr. Passepartout had a lot of qualities. He could sing, he could act, he was an acrobat, at the same time he was a servant. And when he joined Mr. Fogg, he was having a very happy life, very comfortable life. Why? Because Mr. Fogg lived or spent most of his time outside, not inside or not in the house. So the first unusual thing is Mr. Fogg had a new servant. The second unusual thing is Mr. Fogg was at his club and he was gossiping with his friends. And they were reading a news in the newspaper, and the news said that some robber has stolen 55,000 pounds from a bank. And then they were having a debate. Somebody saying, somebody's going to catch him, somebody's going to arrest him, somebody's going to arrest this man. because he will not be able to run away with that money because the world is very small. Another friend of Mr. Fogg said, no, the world isn't so small, it's very big. Then Mr. Fogg gave a punchline. He said, you can go around the world in 80 days. In fact, Mr. Fogg and his friends were reading a piece of news in the newspaper which said that you can travel around the world, go around the world in 80 days. And the newspaper tried to give a kind of route with the days and the means of transport. The newspaper didn't say that somebody had done this journey before. The newspaper is trying to say that if you follow the route, you'll be able to make a journey around the world in 80 days. It's possible, but nobody had ever done before. So if you look at the screen, you will see the route given by the newspaper. It says from London to Suez, you need trains and ships, and it will take 7 days. From Suez to Bombay, Bombay is today's in Mumbai in India. From Suez to Bombay by ship, 13 days. From Bombay to Calcutta by train, 3 days. From Calcutta to Hong Kong by ship, 13 days. From Hong Kong to Yokohama, Japan by ship, 6 days. From Japan to San Francisco, that's it, San Francisco is in America, by ship, 22 days. From San Francisco to New York, by train, 7 days. From New York to London, by ship, 9 days. Altogether, 80 days. But if you look at the map, the journey will be more vivid to you. Let's say the journey begins from London. From London, the characters will travel through Suez to Cairo. Suez is in Egypt. And then from Calcutta, from Bombay, they will travel to Kolkata or Calcutta. And from Calcutta to Hong Kong, and then from Hong Kong to Tokyo. Then from Tokyo to San Francisco, then to New York, and then back to London. London is in Europe, so the characters are going to have a travel from Europe, and then Suez is in Africa. They're going to travel to Africa, the continent. Then from Africa to Asia. They will travel in India, then Hong Kong, Japan. And then from Asia, they will come to North America. That's in San Francisco and New York. And then from North America, they will travel back to Europe again. So that's what the writer meant around the world in 80 days. You don't have to travel each and every corner of the world, just 3 or 4 continents of the world. Just traveling the world from one end to another. Right. So after reading this, what should I say, a piece of information, Mr. Fogg and his friends, they were entangled in a bet that Mr. Fogg said, you can travel around the world in 80 days. His friend said, that's impossible. Mr. Fogg said, yes, that's possible. And then Mr. Fogg said, I can travel around the world in 80 days. How much money will you give me? Then his friend said, well, if you can travel around the world, then we will give you 20,000 pounds. And then the bet was done. If Mr. Fogg wins, he will get 20,000 pounds. But if Mr. Fogg loses, then he has to give 20,000 pounds to his friend. That was the deal between Mr. Fogg and his friends. So the date was fixed. Mr. Fogg was a kind of crazy person. The date was fixed. He decided to begin his journey on the very day he had this bet. So the date was fixed. It was from October 2nd to December 21st. And he actually specified the time that I will come back to London on December 21st, and he specified the time. I will come to this club at 8:45 p.m. Exactly at 8:45. If I'm late 1 minute, then I'm gonna lose the bet. Right, then in the next chapter, Mr. Fogg returned to his house and he ordered his servant, pack your bag, we're gonna travel around the world. And his servant was stunned. What? We're going to travel around the world? Are you insane? Are you crazy? And he said, no, take a few things in your bag and get ready. And then he gave Mr. Passepartout a kind of bag. He handed the bag back to Passepartout and said, look after that bag carefully, there are 20,000 pounds in it. When Passepartout heard this, he dropped the bag. 20,000 pounds is a lot of money. So one crucial fact about traveling around the world is you must have money. So if you want to travel around the world, man, you need a lot of money. Without money, you can't do it. So Mr. Fogg set out for the train station. He reached the train station and he got into the train and he was going to Suez. His first target is Suez. But when they were in the train, the servant suddenly remembered, Mr. Passepartout remembered that he forgot to turn off the gas. The gas was still burning. But Mr. Fogg was so crazy, he didn't want to be distracted by anything. He was so, consumed with the idea of traveling around the world, he didn't care about the gas. He said, we will come back and then we'll pay the bill. Don't worry about that. Let's finish the journey. Okay, but and then they were on the train and they reached Suez on October 9th. After 7 days, they reached Suez. If you look at this image, it will be clear. The Suez Canal looks like this. It's very narrow and very straight. And if you look at this one, you will see that it's kind of looks like a snake. Suez Canal looks like a snake, and Suez is very important for business. Most of the countries do their business through Suez. Right, so they reached Suez and there's a problem. Mr. Fogg and Mr. Passepartout were on their journey, but there was a person who was following Mr. Fogg because Mr. Fogg looked exactly like the robber who stole 55,000 pounds. So the inspector, an inspector was following Mr. Fogg because he looked like the robber, he talked like the robber, and at the same time he dressed like the robber. But the inspector could not arrest Mr. Fogg. Why? Because he didn't have any warrant. Now what is a warrant? A warrant letter is a document that an inspector has from the judge to arrest anybody. So right now Mr. Fix, the inspector, didn't have the warrant to arrest Mr. Fogg. So right now he couldn't arrest him. So he was waiting. He sent a letter to the London police and he was waiting for the warrant letter to come to him. So in the meantime, he decided to follow Mr. Fogg. Wherever Mr. Fogg goes, I will go with him. Otherwise, I will lose him with this huge amount of money. So the writer ends the third chapter with sort of tension. Is Mr. Fogg going to finish his journey? Is Mr. Fogg going to complete the journey? Or is he going to be stopped and arrested by the inspector called Mr. Fix? So that's the end of the third chapter. You will be given a worksheet and you have to complete the worksheet based on chapter 2 and 3. And another homework for you to read chapter 4 and 5 for the next class. That's all for today. See you Monday.